There's always those people that are like, AI, why are you talking about AI? Make AI go away. And the reality is there's a part of me that wishes I could, but the reality is you can't. Welcome back to another episode of the Tradepreneur Show. Your host, Patrick Somers. And we are here back again with my friend, Scott Stolze. Welcome.
Patrick, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. It's good to have you back in the studio.
Which is my favorite. I like being here. We've done a couple remotes. Those are good too. But being right next to you and talking into these mics is fun.
Well, and what we're going to talk about today, it's interesting because whenever some of my social media clips go out of the podcast, whenever I talk AI, there's somebody always like, how much are they paying you? AI is the devil and da-da-da-da, and so there's a lot of positive, but there's always those people that are like, AI, why are you talking about AI? Make AI go away. And the reality is there's a part of me that wishes I could, but the reality is you can't. In fact, I don't know if you saw, it was fairly recent. The Pope in the Vatican spoke about AI and the concerns. And I'm trying to think exactly the phrase he used, but it's AI's making headlines everywhere.
I missed that. I'm a little surprised. I'm thinking to myself as you're mentioning that, I can't believe I didn't see that. I'll look it up. But the other thing that you said too, it's interesting. You haven't mentioned much about some of the comments that you're getting. AI, can we get rid of it? It's bad. It's evil. I hear some of that. And we are here. I know you advocate for this daily. That's one of the reasons I love connecting and working with you, is because there are ways we can use and leverage AI to amplify what we're doing. Sure, there's going to be ramifications we're not all going to love, but there's a lot of things that are going to happen that we will like and appreciate. And here's the thing, it's going to be up to you.
Yeah, I want to share the part of AI that concerns me. Now, I embrace it. I love it. I think it's like any tool. You can use a rake to cultivate the land, clean up the yard, or murder somebody, right? It's I mean, kind of a subtle explanation, but my listeners know that that's what I'm all about. So it's a tool. And used the right way, it can have great benefits. Used the wrong way, like anything, and you got problems. But the one area that I reflect on when I'm using AI is like, man, I don't want to forget how to do the things that are so important. Like kids today don't even know how to write cursive. And I think that's to me, it's a true travesty. And write it, they can't even read it, the thought process, the beauty of writing music. I mean, what AI can do, I've shared some of the songs that I created with AI. I may be writing some of the lyrics. AI's many times enhancing them, making them better. But then, so it's those type of things. I don't want to lose what makes us distinctly human.
No, nor do I. And one comment about you and me, speaking of which, so we come from a generation where we were able to do a lot. We grew up doing cursive in class and using the blackboard and learning how to write without really any help whatsoever. So we have a little bit of an advantage. We experienced that, and we can appreciate the importance of it in today's world, even though we have a proliferation of technology at our hands. The thing that I've been learning, observing, very mindful of with myself, and then most importantly, working hard to convey to others is really, this is going to be, and you've already started saying this is all going to be about what you make it. It literally is. It's what your choice in terms of how you use tools, whether it's personal or in work or your business. And are you also going to take the good things that come of it and spread that to other people? Because ultimately, as we all know, when you can help other people succeed and win, not only it's going to come back around, then you're going to win, but you're just going to be viewed as one of those invaluable people that everybody's going to want around.
And I just want to be clear with the listeners. A blackboard is not racist. We used to have a blackboard that we wrote on with white chalk, and now we have whiteboards that we write on with black markers. And I will say the blackboard is far superior because you got to go out and clap the erasers, and there is nothing like chalk dust clapping the erasers. And if you're from our generation, our period of time, you know what I'm talking about. The younger people, probably not so much, but there is not quite a joy like getting called out and being the one that can go outside and clap out the erasers.
That was a great chore. And when we wanted to get back at somebody in class who we were annoyed with, one of our classmates, what did we do? We took the long eraser, went up from behind him and smacked them behind and got all the chalk got all over him.
Yeah. Well, and with that said, I like to inject humor and things like that. But I think this period is a very exciting period. In fact, I'll give you one more thing I just heard on Fox Business this week. Ford Motor Company getting into energy. And, because the government forced electric vehicles on everybody, the automakers have been struggling and really went sideways when you get government subsidies driving business decisions, it never works out well. But Ford has now decided they're going to take everything they've had invested in the battery market and everything like that and start doing power generation for AI data centers. And I'll tell you, the conversation evolved into these data centers. And if you're in the trades, man, AI for many, many years is going to create a lot of jobs building data centers and maintaining data centers and everything like that. Because I don't know if we'll ever get there, but for right now, it's going to take hands, labor, hard work to build these things.
Let me throw a question back at you on that, because I see that all the time. It could be Fox Business, it could be CNBC, or any number of outlets. The data centers. So one of the common themes that we're all hearing regularly, if you're in this world and paying attention, is that there's going to be a lot of work opportunity building these things out. So as a business owner, as a home services and trades person yourself, can you expand on that a little bit? Because I hear it, and as you know, I live in the greater Phoenix area. There's already quite a few of those kind of facilities, and more are going up. Companies in the Valley in Arizona is a great area to invest in for those kind of facilities, and you have access to a lot of resources. Do you truly see a lot of opportunity for people in the trades or otherwise? I mean, certainly electricians, plumbers, roofers, people building those facilities. I mean, yes. How many jobs is that going to create?
A lot. And not just the building of it. Look, it's going to take a lot of concrete. So there's concrete plants and people working at those concrete plants that have to mix the concrete. There's people that have to get the raw aggregate material to the concrete plant and then transport the concrete to the facility, right? And then the building and all of that, and then the maintaining, the surveying of the land, the civil engineering, the everything that goes into it. And like anything, yes, it's going to take jobs away. It's also going to create new jobs. And just like any time in history, any period in history, as we evolve, you evolve or die. And we've talked about this before, and you just mentioned a little bit earlier. So it's up to you what you're going to do. And you're either going to spend a lot of money into bitching and moaning about this, that, the other thing, or you're going to say, how do I get on board with this? And how do I get ahead? And I think this is a great segue into something we specifically want to talk about, something we're working together on. And that is one of the challenges we have. As you know, I have the general business, and my wife and I have 2 healthcare businesses. And there's some other stuff I dabble in as well. And one of the challenges in all those businesses is integrating AI, communicating what is AI, how do we use AI? And I'll let you speak to this because you're more elegant in this side of it than I am. But there's the whole, how does leadership communicate to the team about AI and how it plays in the role and make them feel secure in adapting it, and not that it's going to take my job, number one. But number two, if you're a business owner, are you aware if you have the team using their free version of ChatGPT, right? Or they're using Gemini or something like that, whatever one is out there, they're using it, inputting company data to get their answer that they need, because there's no company policy, there's no oversight, there's no policy or process or procedure, and it's just kind of happening. And that's a real concern too, from the perspective of some of the issues or challenges, let me say challenges, of introducing artificial intelligence into your organization.
So coming back up one level and then going back into the detail of some of what you share is, so I want to be not just objective, but broad in my thoughts for a conversation like this. There are things about AI that, and the narrative around AI, that do bother me. So neither Patrick nor I, and I wouldn't work with somebody who only saw one side of the coin per se, but we're very aware. I'm very aware. Like when I hear somebody speaking and they're taking away and disempowering people from creating their path and saying, you're going to be a victim of this movement. That bothers me.
Yeah.
Why are we not encouraging instead of discouraging? Why are we not empowering people to learn about now, I know some of this does go on, by the way, but there's too many voices out there right now who are disempowering people and saying, this is what's going to happen to you. And boy, is that a bad message. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, going more in the direction of what you were getting at, is if you're in an organization, if you're a leader, if you're somebody who needs, and a decision maker, and you need to be communicating how AI is going to come into our culture, into our organization. I was just telling somebody here in your business here today, Patrick, too, that look at it almost like an intersection point, right? You have the technology, which is great, which is interesting. We all have a lot to learn. You have the individual people who are all at their pace learning how to leverage and use the technology. And then you have your culture. So there's three parts that are coming together into one major intersection. And this is where you and I come in, because we know we have not only experience in, but I think a belief and a passion for making sure that, yeah, we're using great tools, but how does it affect people? How does it improve what they do every day? And then ultimately, how does it affect your overall culture to the point that everybody wins, including the business, including the customers? That is the secret sauce, or that intersection point is the area which I think not enough people have been thinking about yet.
Yeah. And, you touched on the naysayers, the negativity around it. And that's because that's where all the attention is. So people aren't paying attention to the things you just mentioned. And I'll tell you, it's like that movie. I forget the movie. I think it was in the 90s. They had a line in the movie. It was about a TV network or news. And it said, if it bleeds, it leads. Right. Don Henley. What's his song? Tell you about the plane crash with the gleam in her eye. I can't think of the song right now, but the whole song was about how all the bad news is what drives things. And so that's what's happening now. Hey, we could probably get a lot of listeners if we did this whole thing on all the doom and gloom and fear mongering around AI. But you know what? I don't want to be a part of that crowd. I want to be a realist. I want to know there's real concerns. I'm very, very interested on learning more about what the Pope said. I just caught a glimpse of it, but I haven't had the time to actually sit down and dive into it. But those are real. There's real concerns around it, as we know. But to your point, like, what is the opportunity? What is the opportunity? And don't look at the negative, look at the positive. And I think that's true with anything. But you can, I don't want people to be out there fearful that this AI is going to take away their freedom, their way of life, their jobs, their opportunities. It's going to make it better if done correctly.
I've seen enough in the last, let's just say 6 months. I've seen enough evidence in both the work that I do and with other people that I've been listening to, learning from, and surveying, asking, how it's going, either in their job, their life, or their organization. I've seen enough to know that there is a lot to hang our hats on from an optimistic or positive nature. I'm with you. Like, we need to look at everything, and there are aspects of this revolution we're going through, or evolution, I should say, that, is going to have some collateral damage. But that's any evolution that we go through, work or otherwise. The key is, what are we doing about it? Both, business owners and organizations. What is the collective doing about it? And then what is the individual doing about it? And I will just say, yes, we could get a lot of eyeballs and or ears by focusing on a lot of dramatic negatives, but I know you and I won't do that. And I actually want to get a ton of eyeballs and ears to look at, here's where this is going in a way that's going to help you.
Yeah. And that's what our focus is, right? That's what we really want to be talking about. And that's the thing we're going to talk about in a minute that I believe is an answer for a lot of people, a lot of individuals and business owners. The fear side of it. My youngest daughter, she sent me this social media clip, and she's like, "Dad, is this real?" And it was this young girl, right, probably her age, probably a little older, talking about the devastation on. She has a thing of dirty water, and she says this is going to be our drinking water in this amount of time because of AI and the data centers and the amount of water that a data center uses. So me. I'm going to do my research, and I used AI to do my research. I don't remember if this is the exact number, but it was unbelievable. Like, it takes like 1,800 gallons of water or something to make 1 pound of beef or whatever. When you think of the entire lifespan of cattle, But all the things that we use on water, and not to say that it's not a concern. It's really it is a concern. Anything we do and the water we use is a concern. But first I had to tell my daughter. I said, first of all, water doesn't go anywhere. It goes into the atmosphere and it comes down. So the problem is it doesn't go up. Like if you have a nuclear power plant, steam, you're creating that steam. By the way, that's steam you see, people. That's not smoke, all right, coming out of a nuclear generator. Very clean form of energy. You know, that comes out of the nuclear power plant. The problem is it might end up 2 states over where it comes down back into the earth, right? But I had to explain to her, like, it's going to be used for cooling and everything like that, but it doesn't vanish. It just changes form and ends up somewhere else. But we do have to keep it clean and everything like that. But I'm like, this is fear mongering. It's a real concern, yes. But the way they did it, a young girl that can be, influencing other young people. And then at the end, I said, sweetheart, go watch it again and pay attention and tell me what they're promoting. She comes back. She said, well, an AI thing. I said, yeah, they want you to use they're using fear to use their AI tool because they plant a tree for everybody that uses their AI tool. I said, they're using fear. I said, when you have a company that's going to use fear to get you to use their product, that's a company you avoid. And so you see that out there. It infuriates me. I'm off topic a little bit from what we want to talk about, but this is the shit. Yeah, I said shit that pisses me off.
See, I, for one, and I've known you for several years now, I like that you feel so when you get behind something, you really get behind it. And I only want to work with people that have true conviction. So I like that side of you. I know we're not all everybody's cup of tea. So I applaud it. I appreciate it. And yeah, fear triggers emotion that sometimes leads to action. It's an effective means to reach people, but we don't have to like or agree with the way some businesses or organizations do it. And I'm glad you said one thing you did. Always think of the source when you hear something. Who's saying this and why might they be saying that? Those questions bring a lot of clarity in life, not just your professional life, but your personal life too.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to say based on a few points you just made is, have we not, humankind, I should say, and I'm not going to say this part that eloquently, have humans not shown for tens of thousands of years the ability to solve problems? This is what we do. And there's a whole organization or level of people in this world, not just in our country, but in this world, who love to stamp down and say, this is what's going to happen and how bad it's going to be. When what we should be doing is pointing the finger and focusing on how are we going to solve this problem? Because guess what? That's what people do best.
Yeah.
You're a problem solver.
Yeah. And here's the thing. How often do we use the technology that we create to help us solve problems? Right?
All the time.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, these large language models, which is AI, what they do for me is, see, I'm a skeptic. I'm a skeptic at heart in the right way. And I've adapted this belief when somebody tells me something, I'm going to be skeptical about it. Not because I don't want to believe, not because I don't think it's true, but it allows me to ask the questions I might not otherwise ask. And in asking those questions, I learn more, I understand more, and I end up searching for the truth. And a lot of times it is the truth. Other times I find out that it's a different take on the truth, right? Because everybody wants to slant things their way. And you have to do it with the modern news networks today. And you have to do it with social media.
I have something to add to what you're saying.
Go ahead.
Because before I lose this point, let me share this. So one of my areas of where I get a little frustrated is when I see the narrative of AI is going to make us dumber. That's another one that bothers me a little bit, that we see quite a bit of. Now, I don't mind that that's an existing topic, because it's worth asking and saying, is this technology going to help or hurt us? But I don't ever see people giving it its due justice. What do you even mean AI is going to make us dumber? Let me tell you what it does for me, Patrick, and then you can play it, because I think this is where you were going. When I am sitting down with, say, Claude or Gemini or whatever, ChatGPT, and I ask it and I really try to do my best to prompt as specifically and in-depth as possible, and it gives me options and a lot of things to think about, I view that as a good thing. It is not taking work away from me. It is giving me more options and making me think. I can't tell you how many days in recent months, I have sat with my laptop in front of me, reading through responses I've gotten from these tools and I'll prompt back. I'll be like, Claude, you got to give me, even I know it's not a person, but I kind of like talking to it as one
Yeah.
because it makes the flow that much better. I go, Claude, you're gonna have to give me like 10 minutes to read, because I have to read, I have to digest, I have to process, because you just gave me a lot to think about. How is that making me dumber?
No, well, so listen, and that's where the skepticism part of me comes in, because TV can make us dumber, video games can make us dumber, news programming can make us dumber, social media can make us dumber, computers can make us dumber, AI can make us. It can all make the wrong
Anything.
the wrong group of people can make you dumber, right? It's when you don't question. So if you hear something on the news or you read something in social media and you just accept it, then you're choosing to be dumber. Same thing with AI. AI spits something out to me. I'm going to be like, that doesn't sound right to me at all. And I can't tell you how many times I've challenged AI on something, and it'll eventually be like, oh, you're right. Right. And of course, we can get into hallucinations and all that stuff. But if you know that AI can hallucinate and you just accept everything it says, then you're going to accept the hallucinations. Yeah. Exactly. So lazy makes you dumber. At the end of the day, what makes you dumber is being lazy. That's it. It's not the tools around you. It's not the people around you. They can all influence you. But at the end of the day, if you want to look for one underlying cause for being dumber, it's because you're lazy. At the end of the day, that's it. You're too lazy to ask the questions. You're too lazy to challenge the facts. You're too submissive to challenge the person or the people, and you're just being lazy. Therefore, you're going to be dumber.
And notice, I'm almost going to be like the third person here talking to our audience. What you're doing is, you know how earlier we were talking about empower people. They have the power of choice and options, and it's your path to create and live on. What you just said that's what you're doing. It may sound harsh, but A, it's all true. And secondly, by talking like this with other people, not at, but with, we're inviting more people into this conversation, with that critical thinking mindset of, all right, cool. Because if you watch TV shows, anybody likes to say over the age of 30, 35, you've watched TV shows for years, you've watched plenty of news, you've absorbed plenty of social media in the last 10. Did you ask them questions? Did you allow them to dictate everything, all of your thoughts and all of your actions? If you did any of that, well, I'm sorry, but you already beat AI at being dumb. That's on the person.
Yeah, it truly is. And I talked about my vision quest and going on a vision quest. Like AI will never take the ability to get outdoors and put your feet on the earth, feel the sun on your face, right? The cold in your bones. That is life. That is amazing. AI will never take that away. The computer will never take that away. It will if you allow it to, in the sense that you just become somebody that you live in that world. My biggest fear is not AI per se. It is virtual reality becoming so good and so real in these immersive environments where you will have people that will choose to just live in this environment that is not real. They don't even have to be conscious. They don't even be awake. You could keep them intravenously fed, and they'll just choose to live in this fake world.
But aren't we glad? Isn't this, as just one example, and maybe the most well-known, that the metaverse didn't really gain traction? Like, it's one thing to use AI for business and informative purposes. From what I know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I thought some of the VR stuff Meta was doing is just not got taken hold.
Well, so I do VR, right? I do the games and stuff. I don't do it a lot, but I get these moments where I'm just like, okay, it's a Saturday morning, and I'm like, I'm just going to go play these first-person shooter games. Yes, I'm 54 years old. Remember, I grew up with Space Invaders and stuff. So this stuff, I'm like, this is pretty impressive. So I've gone into that metaverse thing. And I guess I'm in the right place, but I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is like RoboBlock type things that my kids used to do, which is another whole scary thing that I've learned about. But I'm like, that's not. But the virtual reality, like some of these games you play, like you feel like you're there, and it's going to get more and more and more. And I think that there's people that will just submit to that, sadly. But that's no different though than people that submit to drugs. The people that submit to just those people you see on the side of the streets that are just like zombies. It's no different, right? It's no different. We as people, the news, everybody else, we like to find somebody to blame. There's got to be somebody responsible. It's never I'm responsible. I did that. I own that. It's AI. It's drug addiction. It's the stress of to the modern work environment. No, it's you're a candy ass
You know,
at the end of the day.
and you maybe you can speak to this because you've probably written more
I said
checks.
candy ass.
You've written these checks. The old saying in the consulting world is consultants are brought in, and I used to work under a lot of these in a previous life. Consultants are brought in so that the executives can point the finger at somebody when stuff goes awry.
Yeah. Yeah. If you talk about consultants, Al Dunlap, I don't know if you're familiar with Al Dunlap. He was liked and hated, but he could turn a company around.
That's that chainsaw. So real quick, that's that chainsaw Al. Is that
Yeah.
nickname?
And he went into Scott Paper. Scott Paper was failing, right? He went in, turned it around, was able to get it set up to merge with another company. And he has some great quotes. One, when you're ripe, you rot and fall off the tree, right? When you're green, you're growing.
We know he was successful at what he did.
He was
I
very
remember some stories about that guy.
In his one book I read, and a lot of it talked about Scott Paper, and not all of his turnarounds were successful, right? Not all of them were successful. So there's some things that he went in and tried to do some of the same things, and it just didn't work.
Nobody bats 1,000.
But correct. And so he said, listen, I went in, Scott Paper had all of these consultants. They would bring in these consultants. They were paying all these consultants. First thing I did was fire all the consultants. And then I went and walked the floor and asked the employees, what's wrong with this? What's the problem? He says, don't bring in consultants. Just go talk to your people. So I know a lot of you are thinking like, what the hell does this have to do with the trades? Has everything to do with the trades. And there was a nugget. If you take nothing else from this show, go talk to your people, walk the floor. Japanese have a great concept, a management by walking around. I'll walk around and I'll go here and there and I'll just say good morning to people and stuff. I'm doing a lot more than just pleasantries. I'm learning a lot. I'm observing a lot.
What Patrick was just sharing was something that people in organizations can do regularly that's going to help smooth out and maybe temper down some of the friction with implementing and adopting AI in your organization. Because as long as you're connected with and understanding of where your people are, you can't just tell, I'm being a little bit rhetorical here, but you can't just say, go use this tool. That's setting people up for failure. That's setting your business up for failure. But, it might be a metaphor and I know you do this, you walk around and talk to people, but for leaders out there, do that. And as they get more comfortable with or acclimated to a tool, get feedback from them, because not only is it helping the use of the tool in your organization, but guess what? It's making those people feel special, like, oh, he or she values my take. Patrick walked over to my desk today and wanted to know how it's going with XYZ. How is that not a win-win for every layer of adopting AI in your organization?
Yeah, very much so. And you said something earlier about how, here's a tool, go use it. I'm guilty of that because one of the things I've always been good at is figuring things out. So when I got promoted to service manager, now keep in mind, I wasn't in the trades very long, but I had business experience and some management experience. So when I got promoted to service manager, there was no service manager. There was a service manager when I was brand new to the organization, and then he left. And so we were without a service manager for a while, and there was no service manager mentor program. There was no somebody that I could emulate. I had to, and there was no AI to say, build me a service manager training program, right? I had to figure out what it was. And I did. I studied, I searched the internet, I studied, I found mentors, I found training classes, and I went and I attended them, and I self-taught. And now with my use of AI and how I implement it in the business, I just figure it out, right? That's just what I do. I assume everybody else, that's my one weakness. I assume everybody else can do what I can do, and not some people can, not everybody can. And so you have to be able to give the direction and the guidance. But then on the other hand, I come across people and I'll have a conversation with the organization and they'll tell me they're using AI. I'm like, okay, great. What are you using? How are you using it? And then I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Great job, But the challenge is, the biggest thing that I have, the biggest concern I have is people freelancing the use of AI in the business. Because you're punching in proprietary information to an open learning platform, right? Now, obviously the paid version is the one I use, and the one I implement in my wife's business is all it's not open because I'm aware of that need. But not everybody is. Somebody could be like, you could have somebody in the accounting uploading payroll to say, hey, help me do this. And that, you're like, no. So it's really important that the businesses are aware of that. Business leaders are aware of that. And look, I don't think like you got huge businesses. You were telling me about, was it Northrop Grumman?
Yes,
Yes.
recently.
Huge company, aerospace, right? Defense. And if I remember correctly, they're not really using AI.
No, because of the fear part, of course, data and security reasons, and they're still learning how they're gonna eventually get around to using it more. So I was told by somebody who's worked there many years. The biggest thing he told me was partly what you were alluding to is the consistency of how can we use it consistently across the board in an operation like that. Not that it's not very important in your businesses, Patrick, but when you're talking about a defense contractor that works largely for the government, this is really important, the consistency of and processes or protocols behind it. But the other thing he said was that they're afraid of prompting. They need to kind of hammer out what prompts are we going to use for each process, which tells me, by the way, I didn't say this to him when he was sharing this with me, but that tells me that they're not going to so much let people freelance, but they want to have very structured steps, including the prompts, as to how it's then leveraged with their AI tools. But this is what you and I know. It's nuanced. It's going to be different depending on the organization.
Yeah. And back to the prompt. So here's the thing. Let's say, and this is really important if you're using AI, if your team's using AI, back to the prompts. Let's say we want to build a schedule for the technicians for 6 day a week coverage and then after hours on call for Sunday and the normal business hours, the emergency hours. And we both have the same, we both want to build the same thing. You write your prompt, I write my prompt. Our prompts are going to produce slightly different things because what you're going to say is going to be different than what I'm going to say. Now, we're probably going to get something very close, right? And that's a very probably straightforward thing. But let's say you're doing some research or you're conceptually wanting to do something. How you write your prompt is critical. And I will tell you, here's a secret I use. And now a lot of you might be like, oh, duh, no kidding. But actually, I don't think so because there's a lot of people I talk to that I'm amazed how little they know about AI. I use one AI tool. I use a lot of different AI tools. And this one AI tool I use in particular, I use another AI tool to write the prompts. Why? The one AI tool has better memory. I've been working with it a long time, and I have a really good paid version of it. And so it gets me, so to speak. And so when I prompt it to write a prompt that I want and what other AI I'm writing it for, it understands, it writes these amazing prompts. I can create the things I need to create much faster and with much more accuracy by having one AI write a prompt for the other AI. In fact, the one AI, when it will get into a problem where it won't be building exactly what I want, I will copy my chat with that AI, put it in the other AI, and the other AI is like, oh yeah, this is what's happening. This is why. This is common. Boom, writes. I paste it back into the other one. Totally fixes the problem that its own AI couldn't fix. But the prompt that was written by another AI, understanding this particular AI, got it fixed right away. So I might have just confused you. That was almost like a who's on first.
Maybe for people who don't use it a lot, I've done a little bit of that, and I back what you're saying. The little I've done, and I have done it, gotten different sources for prompts, and it's turned out really well. That's all I will say. So, we need to bookmark for a future conversation, Patrick, too. And I'll let you take us home from here is the conversation of, say there's 4 Patricks in an organization, but they're very distinctly different because you're somebody who solutions and figures a lot of stuff out, and you build the memory and the tool or tools gets to know you really well and your style. But then there's 2 or 3 other leaders in an organization, and they're using tools that get to know their style. I would love to flush that out with you one day as to how you go about that. And because I would see it would be mostly good, but there could be room for there's some conflict.
That's where you have an organization and you can build like an AI into your organization.
across the spectrum.
Correct. And that's probably what, like, something Northrop Grumman's going to have to eventually do. They'll have their own built AI for their organization. So it understands the principles, the values, the outcomes, the concepts.
And never deviates from it.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if Billy Bob puts something in or Wanda puts something in. It's going to take that prompt. It's going to decipher the visions, the values, the missions, the standards, the do's and the don'ts of that organization, and then have that happen. And I think that's another opportunity where a lot of these people with computer science and stuff, where they're going to have to be, because, but on the other hand, AI is writing code. So one of the things I use writes his code and builds stuff that, like, is incredibly amazing. And we'll talk more about that on another podcast that we'll have, which I'll share with you more. But I just want to, before we check out, I do want to say, Scott, with me kind of in the background, we're launching something. It's called Lead AI. And our website is takecontrolai.com. Takecontrolai.com. And the reason it's not leadai.com is because leadai.com wasn't available. So figure that one out. Yeah. But anyways, if you go to takecontrolai.com, you can go on there. There are 2 surveys you can take. One is for you as an individual, and you can actually give it to your team to take as well. It will give you an assessment of where your team is ranking in the implementation of AI. Okay. And it'll give you some insights into some blind spots and some suggestions on what needs to be the gaps. There's another assessment that if you go in there and you take it, this is something that we're going to charge for, this other assessment, a small fee, but right now it's free, because obviously we want to make sure that it's working as efficiently as it should. And we want some feedback on it. So if you go in and you take that assessment, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. And then it will give you the tools and how to use them in your daily operations for you personally that can save you 5 to 10 hours a week. So I encourage you, go check out takecontrolai.com. Feel free to take the assessments. There's no charge. There's nothing. And share your feedback. Would love to have your feedback. There's also a newsletter you can sign up for there that we're going to send. We're going to send some insights and some different things out. We might send out some very useful prompts. We might send out some experiences we've had and successes we've had with different AI tools, so on and so forth. So go ahead and check that out. And before we close out, any final words?
Yeah, just so to Patrick's point, and what we're doing is, and I think we both alluded to several examples in some of our shares and storytelling today, is you always hear about AI's impact on the job market, on jobs, period, on people, AI impacting fill in the blank. What we're doing, what I certainly believe in, is those aren't going away, but I am very focused on the narrative of people's impact on AI. And I really believe if a lot of us lead, and I don't view this as hopeful, I view this as very tangible. Lead yourself in this arena, in this evolution with the technology, thinking more of people's impact on AI. It's proactive. You're in control, you're empowered, and say, what am I doing to use the technology? Where am I using it? What value and benefits will it bring? And then like I said this earlier, Patrick, I really think it's incumbent on all of us. The best thing we can do is we learn and leverage it more and see the good results, share that with other people. People's impact on AI is what's going to make this succeed.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was very well said. Very good closeout. And thanks again for coming in studio and doing another episode of the Tradepreneur Show. I always enjoy our dialogue and conversations. And of course, I hope you, the listeners and viewers on YouTube, do as well. And as always, please, I appreciate any likes, comments, follows, shares. But on the Tradepreneur Show, you'll find us anywhere. We are on YouTube, but we're on podcast, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can find a podcast. There's so many different platforms out there. And then, of course, on my website, tradepreneurshow.com, we have the episodes. And if you'd be so kind to leave a review, give us a rating, that would be very beneficial. It really helps the show, and it's a great way to support this show. Until next time, win the day and be great.